Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I want to talk about something that a lot of tanks misunderstand in raids. How tank logging and parsing actually works. But before we start, I just want to say that your support gives me a lot of motivation to keep making better videos and better guides for you guys. I will make new videos and show you how you can do best logs with each tank classes. So if you enjoy this type of content and want to support the channel, don't forget to subscribe. It really helps a lot. Now, most tanks think getting good logs just means pressing offensives and doing more DPS. But that's not really true. A lot of tanks completely destroy their survivability, grief their healers, move bosses horribly, or even wipe the raid just trying to chase numbers on Warcraft logs. And the funny thing is, those tanks usually still don't get good parses. Good tank logs are way more than just damage. It's about uptime, positioning, cooldown management, fight knowledge, pull timing, and understanding when you can actually play aggressively. The best tanks know how to increase their damage without making the raid unstable. And that's the difference between a tank that only looks good on meters and a tank that people actually want to raid with. So in this video, I'm going to explain how top tanks consistently get high logs, what mistakes completely destroy your parses, and what you should actually focus on if you want to improve in midnight raids. And even if you don't care about parsing, understanding these things will still make you a much better tank overall. So yeah, let's get into it.
The first thing you need to understand is that uptime is everything for tank parses. And honestly, this is where most tanks already lose damage without realizing it. Every second you are not hitting the boss is lost damage. Every unnecessary movement, every hesitation, every moment where you stop pressing abilities, all of that destroys your parse. A lot of tanks move way too much. They panic, they reposition bosses for no reason, or they overkite when they don't need to. Good tanks move as little as possible. They keep the boss stable. They maintain melee uptime for the raid, and they continue pressing globals constantly. If you watch top tanks, one thing you'll notice immediately is how clean their gameplay looks. They almost never freeze. They almost never waste globals. Their rotation keeps flowing non-stop. And trust me, even small downtime adds up massively during a raid fight. Section 2. Plan your offensive cooldowns. This is another huge difference between average tanks and high parse tanks. Bad tanks use cooldowns randomly. Good tanks plan them before the pull even starts. You need to know when adds spawn, when damage amps happen, when bloodlust is used, and where your biggest damage windows are. For example, using cooldowns right before adds die is usually terrible value. Using cooldowns during burn phases, huge value. Top tanks already know exactly where their avatar, Divine Toll, Incarn, will be used before the fight even begins. That's why their damage looks consistent instead of random. And also, raid knowledge is a massive part of parsing. Sometimes the better player isn't even pressing buttons faster. They just understand the fight better. Section 3. Survivability creates damage. This is something many tanks don't understand. Being tanky actually increases your damage, because dead tanks do 0 DPS. If your healers constantly panic heal you, or you're always close to dying, you can't play aggressively. Stable tanks can greed damage because they already planned their defensives correctly. Good tanks rotate cooldowns smoothly. They don't overlap everything at once, and they don't save every cooldown for later, and then die with all buttons available. The goal is smooth damage intake. That makes healer lives easier, makes the raid more stable, and gives you more opportunities to maximize offensive uptime. A tank that survives comfortably will almost always parse better over time than a tank playing recklessly. Section 4. Positioning matters way more than people think. Positioning is one of the most underrated parts of tank gameplay. Bad positioning destroys raid damage. If the boss keeps moving constantly, your melee lose uptime. If adds aren't stacked properly, damage gets worse. If frontals face the wrong direction, people die. Top tanks position bosses in ways that maximize raid damage while minimizing movement. And honestly, some tanks lose massive parses just because they move the boss too much. Good positioning also lets you do more damage, because when mobs are stacked tightly, your cleave becomes way stronger. So positioning is not only about survival, it's also a huge DPS increase for the entire raid.
Stop wasting globals. One of the biggest parse killers is wasted globals. This happens constantly. Tanks stop pressing abilities while moving. They hesitate during mechanics. They overreact. Or they press utility at horrible times. Every global matters, especially in modern raids where uptime is everything. High parse tanks minimize empty globals as much as possible. Even movement abilities are often optimized to avoid downtime. That's why their gameplay looks smooth and fast instead of clunky. What tank logs actually measure? A lot of people only look at DPS numbers, but tank logs are way more complicated than that. Things that affect your parse: fight length, raid comp, externals, kill speed, buff timing, boss strategy, add uptime, and even how aggressive your healers let you play. This is why comparing logs without context is pointless. A tank parsing in a fast, coordinated kill has huge advantages compared to a progression pull. So don't blindly compare yourself to every orange parse you see online. Instead, focus on improving your own gameplay quality first. Once your fundamentals are solid, then you can start optimizing smaller things. Things like pre-pot timing, trinket syncing, external cooldown planning, boss timers, damage amp windows, and ad optimization. This is where top-end parsing really starts. But honestly, none of that matters if your fundamentals are bad. Good uptime and clean gameplay will always matter more first. At the end of the day, good tank parsing is not about trolling your raid for damage. The best tanks balance damage, survivability, positioning, utility, and consistency all at the same time. That's what actually separates average tanks from great tanks. Hopefully, this video helped you understand tank parsing a little better. And if you want more tank guides, raid POVs, Mythic Plus content, UI setups, macros, and class-specific tips, feel free to join my Discord and support the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.